In the interview that I just read that you gave to me, your daughter described you as a moral person, someone that was angry but moral. And what do you see? Do you see yourself in that context?
Would you really expect someone to say no? I'm not moral,
No,
I'm immoral.
you're right, and that isn't even really the question that I was thinking of. She actually described herself as not being in that same way moral, but you as being upright, and then also angry, but doing things and changing things in your own way. What way?
Well, I'd say that she too is a very moral person, and she only means that she would disregard public opinion if it was necessary at any time, and she's been doing that since she was maybe 18 years old. Whereas when she talks about me as a moral person, I guess that I don't know what she really means, because I haven't stuck in the straight and narrow way as far as the way a woman should behave, for instance. I've done all kinds of things which would not be done here, but it's been accepted because of my reputation as being maybe a very good teacher, maybe a good headmistress. I've looked after children, I've bathed them, I've looked after them when they're sick, and so the people know that a child can be trusted with me. And I think that is from where my reputation has grown.
When you were divorced and you came back to this town, was it difficult for you to, I mean, she talks about, of course, the novel is a lot about the two children and how difficult it was for their mother in that same situation. Was it difficult for you to work through that and demonstrate that you could be a modern person?
It would be right to say that at that time, which is about 30 years ago, it would have been almost impossible for me to stay here as a divorced woman, and that to a woman married to somebody outside this community. And again, I really don't understand how people have tolerated me and why they have gone on sending their children to me, because the more taboos I break down, the more the number of children who come to this school. I really can't explain it. Do I answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. At some point, I'm now influenced by this interview that I read that you gave to me. And it seems that she said at some point you and she had a falling out and she left home. Was that difficult?
Well, obviously one has to look at the society also from a different angle. And I'd say that a lot of my success has depended on my coming to this very town where my mother has her home and where my father has his home. And they were both very well educated people coming from families that were very well known. And if I had not had this kind of a reputation behind me, I would not have taken off. But there is the other angle of like Arundhati keeps talking about her desire to be independent, to be a free bird. It was a quality which I think I instilled in her and which I instill in children studying here. And I think people round about me realized that with that kind of independence, the children were able to move to places all over India. You'll find children from the school in Bombay, you'll find them in Delhi, you'll find them in the United States, you'll find them in in London and roundabout. You'll find them practically all over the world. And I would say that the reason is the independence. I would say that that is the independence they have been taught in school. Why don't you eat a little bit and then go on? You must be hungry after all this time. No, right.
I'm interested in this.
Mm-hmm.
How has it changed around here in 30 years? Since '69, I mean, or when the novel was taking place, when you first got here, physically?
Mm-hmm. Well, what is interesting is that Arundhati studied in the school as a child, and when I say a school, it means there were just about 7 or 8 children. So that was a very interesting experience for her and for us who were involved, for the children and for us, because it was really what one would call deschooling, not having all the parameters which a school would have, and not having syllabus and moving from one class to another, the older children mixed with the younger children, and the younger children were looked after by the older children. And that, in a sense, is what I think gave the earlier batches of children here a very good education. One, that they were so few, and there were probably a larger number of teachers than children. Since then, we have become more or less a usual school. I try not to be usual, but we have classes which are divided one from another. We do an exam in the 10th standard, we do another in the 12th standard. But generally, I still believe, and I still can see, that a dictum to follow is the less a child studies in class, the more the child learns. It's like the swimming you saw today. The whole school was let out. I mean, there are occasions when we just release them from class. And therefore, when they study, they really do, I mean, it depends on what you mean by study, of course. They must have studied a lot today.
How have the communists, which play a prominent part in the novel, played a part in your life here?
They played a very constructive part in my life. Very, very constructive part. In fact, I am very much indebted to them for the fact that this law has been upheld in Kerala. It couldn't really not have been upheld, but the Christians, to which community I belong, and the Congress, which also supports the Christians, and any other community around Kerala, had ganged up against this giving daughters an equal share in the father's property. And it was the communists who turned up and supported me even in the Supreme Court. They've supported me all the way. They've refused to send up, I mean, when they're in power, they've refused to send up petitions. There are petitions even now in the local legislature seeking for a striking down of the 30 years retrospect which the judgment brought with it. But it is the communists that have always supported me and the women.
When your daughter and son were growing up, did they spend a lot of time together playing here in the school?
Well, you're looking at a school by the time I came here, my son had already gone to a boarding school for only the reason that we didn't have that class. He went to standard 6 and we didn't have standard 6 in school. So my daughter continued till she was in 6. But I'm talking about the time they went away. But before that, yes, they were great friends. And we were staying in Aimanam, the village, and there was this tradition which was started by my grandfather, who was a priest and who insisted that all the children would play together, would pray together and go to the same school. They didn't really go to the same school. I did a lot of teaching at home or at the time the school started in school. And there was this English lady who had come here with me. So between us we did farm out the teaching of my children till both of them were in grade 6, or it would be 11 years or 11 years, yeah.
Much of the novel seems to be told through the vision of a 9-year-old, so this is that period you're talking about. Was there really a pickle factory there?
There still is a pickle factory. It's still in town in Kottiyam, and for her convenience in telling the story, she's moved it to Imanam. We lived in Imanam, the pickle factory was in Kottiyam, the school was in Kottiyam. But she's talking about a time when she was living there, and well, as I said, for her convenience, the pickle factory moved to a second house nearby.
And you were related to the pickle factory?
It was my mother.
Mother?
My mother started the pickle factory, and my brother still works there. And they're still running the pickle factory. But it hasn't really grown to become, it hasn't become very important still. It's still a very small unit, not doing very well. And, well, it's there, it's alive.
It became more abundant in the novel, went away. In the novel, Amu may or may not be portions of them modeled after you. Wanted to become a school teacher and start a school. Was this always a dream of yours?
No, not at all. I did not want to teach. It was only after I came here with 2 children that I took my degree in education. And while I was doing that, I did realize that teaching was a wonderful vocation. Once I started teaching, actually, I was very, very happy.